The Boer or Boerboek is a South African breed of meat goat. It was selectively bred in the Eastern Cape from about 1920 for meat qualities and for the ability to It has been exported to many countries, and has been used to improve the meat qualities of other breeds. History. The Boer goat was bred from the indigenous South African goats kept by the Namaqua, San, and Fuku tribes, with some crossing of Indian and European bloodlines being possible. They were selected for meat rather than milk production. Due to selective breeding and improvement, the Boer goat has a fast growth rate and excellent carcass qualities, making it one of the most popular breeds of meat goat in the world. Boer goats have a high resistance to disease and adapt well to hot, dry semi-deserts. Characteristics. Boer goats commonly have white bodies and distinctive brown heads. Some Boer goats can be completely brown or white or paint, which means large spots of a different color are on their bodies. Like the Nubian goat, they possess long, pendulous ears. They are noted for being docile, fast-growing, and having high fertility rates. Does are reported to have superior mothering skills as compared to other breeds. Boer goats tend to gain weight at about the same rate as their sire, so a buck from a proven fast-growing bloodline will command the highest price, as its offspring tend to also be fast growers. The primary market for slaughter goats is a 22 to 36 kilograms kid. Kids should reach marketable size at weaning age. The kid of a proven fast-growing sire might weigh 36 kilograms at 90 days, while the kid of a poor quality sire might weigh only 15 kilograms at 90 days. An average quality buck will initially be less expensive to purchase, but it can significantly undermine an operation's long-term profitability. Use. Due to their versatility on different terrains, Boer goat are frequently used for land maintenance, especially to prevent bush encroachment on rangeland. As typical browsers, the goats are able to suppress regrowth after bush thinning and to browse from plants up to 1.8 meters high, standings on their hind legs. Boer goats are polyestrous, and they reach sexual maturity at 5 months of age. A typical breeding program is to produce 3 kid crops every 2 years, meaning the DIs are pregnant for 5 months, nurse their kids for 3 months, and then are rebred. Multiple births are common, and a 200% kid crop is achievable in managed herds. Usually, first-time DIs have 1 kid, but they may have more. After that, they usually have 2 kids every other breeding. The kids can be brown, black, white, or mixed. Raising Boer goats for meat. Boer goats are typically crossbred with other goat breeds to increase their weight and meat yield. A crossbreed Boer goat is great for your flock, but you're probably not going to get the same quality as a purebred goat. They are often called the poor man's cow, because goats require so little space to forage and roam. Goat meat is the most rapidly growing meat industry in the USA. In fact, the Boer goat is one of the top goat breeds used for meat. Boer goats need little intervention, and rarely even require supplementary feeding. They live off of anything they can find to forage. Boer goats need little intervention, and rarely even require supplementary feeding. They live off of anything they can find to forage. Raising meat goats can be very lucrative as the meat yield is great and the market for it is crazy. Whether you are raising Boer goats for your own household or to sell meat, the meat is an excellent, healthy protein source. If you want to keep your operation small, take some meat samples to a select few restaurants in your area. Exotic food restaurants often purchase 1 carcass at a time, but it is a steady stream of business with buyers who pay well. Raising Boer goats for dairy. Boer goats produce really yummy milk, but they were bred for producing for meat. They only make a small amount of milk for each pregnancy, usually just enough to feed their kids to weaning. Farming them for milk will not be as efficient as raising dairy goats. Boer goat characteristics. Boer goats are known to be the hardiest of all goat breeds. They adapt easily to their environment and require little to no intervention by humans. They are vulnerable to parasites. Therefore, regular deworming is essential to ensure good weight and health at slaughter. They will also need regular dipping to prevent tick bite fever, which can be fatal. Boer goats have white bodies with convex-shaped heads that are reddish-brown and pendulous, floppy ears. Some have a prominent blaze, but not all. Both the does and the bucks have horns that curl backwards. A mature doe can weigh 190 to 230 pounds. A mature buck can weigh 200 to 340 pounds. Both reach an average of 2.5 feet tall at their withers. Boer goat behavior. Boer goats are easy to raise because they are mild-tempered and very affectionate. This breed is ideal for newcomers to goat farming because they are so flexible to the environment and require little to no human intervention in raising. Goats love to climb. This is very important to know before you go out and buy hordes of these hillbillies. It makes housing them quite challenging at times, especially if there is a doe in estrus nearby. Just look up goats on the internet and you will see all the strange things goats like to climb. Boer goats will not climb high in trees, but they will make their own mischief. Because of their energetic, curious natures, Boer goats forage rather than graze. They yearn for a little adventure in their lives and are not shy to cause chaos. They are very social animals, and because they forage instead of graze, they make excellent pasture mates for other livestock animals. Just do not be surprised if you come home to a goat sleeping on the back of a cow, horse, or structure. Because they like to climb, they prefer hills. However, you can create structures for them to climb with old tractor tires, sheds, and even hay bales. They are not as good at climbing as mountain goats who literally live on cliffs, but they are still adventurous. Because of their friendly personalities and because they are easy to manage, kids love them, human kids, and proudly show off their pets at animal shows. Boer goat care. Caring for your Boer goats is very simple. They need only a few things from you to let them thrive. Because they are highly social animals, they should always have friends to hang out with. Because they are so easygoing, anybody will do. They'll get along with pretty much any of your livestock animals. Keeping only one goat can be emotionally traumatizing. Space requirements. Goats need at least 250 square feet per animal to thrive. As they are foragers, space is very important. If they do not have enough space, they could eat up valuable grazing to fill their tummies. Foraging for food also gives them the exercise they need to stay healthy. Nutrition. Boer goats are browsers and grazers and have a very important role to play in nature. Because they enjoy foraging and consume so many food sources, they have played and are still playing a vital role by consuming many invasive, alien plant species that would otherwise be hard to eradicate. If you want healthy, large goats and healthy kids, the best nutrition you can give your goats is high-quality pasture. This will also improve the fertility of your does and meat production. Goats love looking for different tastes and will consume 25 different species of plants every day. If you live in a complete desert condition where absolutely nothing grows, or in areas where snow covers everything in sight, you may need to purchase feed to see them through the rough months. Letting your Boer goats forage for food will improve the quality of the grazing for your other animals, and it will reduce the financial impact of buying feed every month for your goats. They are quite picky about the hygiene of their food. Food that is contaminated with urine or feces will not be eaten. For this reason, you should ensure that the feed and water bowls are raised off the ground. Their diverse tastes include weeds, leaves, shrubs, and brush. There are going to be times when you will need to supplement your goat's food. You will need to add feed when your goats are confined and/or kidding. You will need to supplement their feed if there are insufficient nutritious plants during extreme drought, or if your herd has grown too big for their pasture and the land has become overgrazed. Boer goats that are raised in pastures lower your costs and increase your profit margin if you sell your goats to the meat market. Providing salt and mineral licks is a good idea. Your goats will not need much at a time, meaning it will last a long time. In winter and, before, during, and after kidding, your goats should be given horse-quality hay. They should also get in plenty of legume hay like alfalfa and lespedeza, as these are high in protein, vitamins, and minerals. Goats do not like to eat grain. Save your money on that one. If your goats are very underweight, they can be given grains to help build up their weight. They do love scraps from your kitchen. Leftover vegetable peels, carrots, potatoes, and any fruit or vegetables that are beyond fresh enough for you to eat will brighten up your goat's day. Dealing with disease. There are a few common illnesses to watch out for in Boer goats. All goats are vulnerable to contagious ecthyemia, small sores that form around the kid's mouth and can then be transmitted to the ewe via the udder. Although the condition is painful, the disease can be prevented with a shot. This condition can be transmitted to humans, leaving you with painful sores on your skin. Heartwater. Spread by the bont tick, this can lead to death. Regular dipping is effective in keeping the ticks off, but if you see symptoms, high fever, trouble walking, odd chewing, and convulsions, you should consult your vet for antibiotics as soon as possible. Ticks can also affect humans very quickly if they get bitten. Pregnancy can be a dangerous time for all goats. Infections like brucellosis, leptospirosis, toxoplasmosis, chlamydiosis, pregnancy toxemia, exposure to steroids, campylobacteriosis, Q fever, ketosis, can all lead to spontaneous abortions or stillbirths. Boer goat feeding and what they eat. Goats are picky, but I fully understand their logic. When they eat, even the food they forage, they do not eat anything that is close to the ground where it has been exposed to urine and feces, their own and any other animals. That makes perfect sense. In addition to the leaves and bushes they like to munch on, their diet consists of. This forces them to use their hind muscles by making them stand on their hind legs to reach the food. These feeders are called flex feeders. Your goats will each consume 4 to 5 liters of water a day. A lactating female goat will need twice that amount. Drinking water is very important when seasons are dry, as the food they find will not have much moisture in it. As with their food, they will not drink contaminated water. They will need continuous, clean water. You should consider investing in a continuous water filtration system that basically acts as a running stream that removes contaminants and returns clean water to the goats. Life cycle and breeding. Boer goats are sexually mature and ready to breed at 5 months of age. My recommendation, and I say this for all animals you wish to breed, is to give the animal 2 extra months to grow before you start breeding with them. This just gives the animal a bit more time to grow and develop, upping the odds of a healthy pregnancy in kids. However, that is just how I do it. You can start breeding at 5 months. Boer goats are polyestrous. This means that, unlike other goat species, Boer goats can breed all year round. Boer goats live for 12 to 20 years, but for meat, they can be slaughtered as young as 3 to 5 months old. Boer goat breeding. The kids will inherit the buck's growth rate. Breeding with fast-growing bucks can be more lucrative than breeding with whatever buck you have. A fast-growing buck will be a good investment for your homestead. Kids can gain 0.4 pounds or more a day. This means they will gain quickly and grow heavy. Choosing the right goats to breed. Sometimes it pays to carefully choose a better bloodline and pay more over buying a full herd for a reduced price. On your homestead, you will probably want to start small. The ideal size for a herd of Boer goats is 1 buck per 25 does. But you can start with 1 doe and 1 buck and gradually grow your herd. Talk to your neighbors and your vet before committing to a purchase to make sure the seller is someone known and recommended by people you trust. Always inspect the goats you are planning on purchasing and look at their housing situation at the breeder or seller. If the conditions are dirty, you stand a better chance of bringing illness back to your homestead than you have of raising healthy Boer goats. Take note of the hair. It should be smooth and glossy. All the eyes and noses should be clear of any discharge. The goats should not be coughing, and they should not have any problems breathing. None of the animals should be limping. They should have good hooves and every goat should be moving about comfortably. The goats should all be a good weight with well-developed muscles. When purchasing does, I recommend that you buy a doe who has kidded at least once to make sure she is not infertile. You should not buy a new doe who is in her last 30 days of pregnancy or who has kidded within the past 30 days. They are very vulnerable to disease in this period. Ask questions. Ask about previous pregnancies and deliveries. Ask about the health of her offspring and about her treatment of kids. Is she attentive? Did she have any problems during pregnancy, delivery, and nursing? Is she a good milk producer? Ideally, your new doe should be 10 to 36 months old. When purchasing a buck, look for a clear, not crossbred, bloodline. Rather spend a little more on a buck that is big as his offspring will follow his growth rate and carry his characteristics. The color of the buck does not matter if you are breeding for meat, but you should see a broad chest, long loin, and deep muscles. Buying an older buck is significantly more expensive than buying a young buck. This is because the buck's records will show if he is a good breeder, the quality of his offspring, and his kid's size. In proven bucks, the youngsters, can be a roll of the dice. Take your time and check his bloodline. Get his health assessed before you commit to the purchase. Breeding season. Because they are polyestrous, they do not wait until a specific time of year to start breeding. In fact, goats move in faster than the boys on The Bachelorette. For a doe to breed, all she needs is exposure to a buck. As soon as exposure happens, the doe immediately comes into heat. This can happen any time of the year from January to February, July to August, and/or August to October. In her lifetime, a doe can produce kids for 6 or more years. Kidding season. Boar goats are very easy breeders and require little or no human intervention when kidding. You may need to help by getting the kids to stand immediately and draining their mouths and noses by holding them up by the back legs. This just allows gravity to drain the mouth and nose of amniotic fluids. You may also need to help the kids latch onto their mom if she is too tired to help them. Normally, when a boar doe kids for the first time, she will only have one kid. After that, most of her pregnancies will result in twins, triplets, or even quadruplets, although this is more rare. Because there are normally 2 kids born from each pregnancy, you need to make sure that each kid has access to enough colostrum and milk. If there are more than 2 kids, you may need to bottle feed the runt or place that kid with a wet nurse, an unrelated doe who is still producing milk even though her kids have been weaned. Because does go into heat every 18 days, they can be bred twice every 36 days. I do not recommend this. I prefer to give a break between kidding. That way the doe has a chance to heal from the delivery and wean her kids. She will be stronger for the next pregnancy if she has been given a little bot time. Rams are normally weaned at 12 to 15 weeks, and female kids are weaned at 15 to 18 weeks. Separating females is not required for most of the pregnancy. About 2 to 4 weeks before kidding, you should move the does to an isolation pen where they and their kids will not be harmed in fights. They will have to stay separate for 4 weeks after kidding. If you do see fighting before then, go ahead and separate them immediately. Avoid spontaneous abortions by increasing the volume of food they consume and by decreasing the stress on the doe by creating a calm environment for the doe and kids. Boar goat housing. Your boar goats should always have access to shelter from the sun, rain, snow, and wind. Obviously, the best case scenario is that the goats spend their days outdoors foraging and climbing. On a practical level, this may not always be an option. A properly built barn will not only protect your goats from the weather, but it will also protect them from predators. If you are looking at raising your goats indoors, they will need at least 20 square feet per animal. This would apply mainly in winter. If your goats are free to roam in the daytime and only come in at night, they will need 10 to 12 square feet per animal. Remember, do not build their shelter too close to the fence that keeps them in. They will jump on the roof of the shelter and jump the fence. Housing boar goat bucks. Housing a buck can be a very frustrating thing to do. If they can smell a doe that is in heat, good luck. That is a real problem since does go on heat every time they are around a buck. Given the weight and sheer determination of a boar goat buck, they will break through wood and wire without much effort at all. You should always create a no-man's land between pens of 20 feet or more. This is to prevent sharing a fence. Bucks will do whatever it takes to cover does over shared fences. Keep your fence posts close together to add strength to the structure. And consider using pipe rather than wood as the goats will eat the wood. Adding a low-voltage electric fence will also help keep your bucks at bay. Always remember that boar goats are social animals. Try not to house bucks individually. It is better to either house multiple bucks together, not too many, you do not want to set the scene for a riot, or house your buck with cattle, pigs, or even chickens. They just need some activity and chatter around them to keep them calm. Fencing for Boer goats. Fencing for your Boer goats is important for keeping goats in and predators out. Boer goats do not typically jump as high as some other goats. They will, however, still jump, climb, and lean, which is why you should pay attention to your fenced-in pens. They often stand on their back legs to reach leaves. If they are using the fence to do this, you should ensure the fence can take the weight. For this reason, the design and materials used are very important. One other thing to remember when putting up your fence is that goats chew everything. For Boer goats, your fences should be 4 feet or higher, especially if you are housing other species together with your Boer goats. Razor or barbed wire will not keep your goats penned. In fact, it will only harm them as they are consumed with the need to hook up with the pretty girl next door. Use woven wire to build your fence as it is strong enough to tolerate any attempt to break out. Goats love to stick their heads through the openings on fences. They are curious about the world around them and like to chat to other animals face to face. The problem is, putting their heads through the fence is easy enough. Taking their heads out with their big horns is a whole other issue. Make sure the opening between fences is no larger than 2 by 4 inches. Your fence posts can be no further than 8 feet apart. Goats love to scratch themselves on fence posts. For this reason, your corner posts should be cemented in. Depending on the size of the pen, you may want to cement in a few posts along each side of the pen to add structural integrity. Controlling predators. Protecting Boer goats is much easier than protecting other goat species. Their weight makes them harder to carry off. However, given the opportunity, coyotes, wolves, bobcats, and mountain lions will attack any goats. The kids are at risk of being carried off by foxes and even eagles. If you live in an area known for predators, the smart thing to do is to build a fully enclosed shelter or barn to turn the goats into at night when most predators are out hunting. Electric fences will also help provide a layer of protection for your goats. Many farmers are using Great Pyrenees dogs as they are nocturnal and were bred to navigate rough terrain to protect their goats. How to jumpstart your small enterprise. If you want to start a small business raising Boer goats for meat or for milk, here are some items to think about as you plan for your newcomers. What condition are your pastures in? You need to ensure that you only purchase enough goats for the size of land you have available.